Lenny, sorry. Lenny's father. Ilan is the Hebrew name.
Right.
Ilan's father was a medic
In
World War II. You say the story.
And he, the course of his basically enlistment, he went through northern Africa, and then Italy. He was at the Battle of Anzio and the Battle of Salerno, and then ultimately went into southern France, and then he was there for 3 years, and then ultimately went into Germany, and was there when Dachau was liberated, and saw everything. He saw everything. It's my understanding, this gentleman here, Hymie.
I was one of the persons who he liberated almost 70 years ago, 1945, April 29. When they came in, we were shocked, because they took us in there to cremate us because we were just skin and bone. We couldn't work anymore, and they couldn't. So they stopped cremating the people, and they were big piles of just dead people all over. And after that, we went to another camp, and we were in Philadelphia, all kinds of places. I'm not too good with making speeches.
No.
You were telling us a story that your father said he saw, and you saw the same story of the soldiers.
The story was, my dad had always told us that there were a number of anti-Semitic soldiers within the American Army that when they came into the camps, they were so overtaken by the atrocities that they themselves started shooting some of the Nazi guards because it just they were overwhelmed by the inhumanity, and they were and that was something my dad had told me. And
I was in a temple where it was Eli Goydell, and he was also one of the ones who liberated Dachau. He was a temple in Putnam Valley. He was there, the president. He was running the temple. And when they came in, they took off the guards from there, and they put them to the wall, and they shot them.
the guard tower.
Yeah,
You saw that.
yeah.
So you remember the Americans coming into the
Oh
camp?
yeah, I remember. I mean, it was a big deal. I mean, because I was there with my father and brother. All three of us got liberated. Just
Were the Germans terrified? What was their reaction when they knew the Americans were right there? Did they say, "Not me"? Did they try and take their uniforms off and run? Did they?
Some of them they did, because we came with a train, and before we got onto Dachau, there was another train, a military train, and all of them, they left the train, the soldiers, and they put on civilian clothes, and they ran away. And they left there, so they didn't want to be caught as prisoners. So they just ran away. And
Were there, aside from, we know his father was there, he spoke Yiddish. Were there other Americans, do you recall, Yiddish-speaking Americans?
yeah, there was a lot of the Americans who
With Stars of David? This must have been like heaven sent,
yeah, some of them, they did have the Star of David. So,
We tried to get them together
Yes.
for quite a while.
Yes.
It didn't work out, but Hymie said that he's going to come here and he wants to thank
and
family.
when I came into Dachau, right by the camp, there was a German woman, and he saw there were dead people shot in the train from the place. They didn't know what was going on. It was a wartime, so they were all dead there. And this German woman said, "What a shame! What's going on here?" So this SS man was there. This was about maybe an hour before we were liberated. Said, "If you don't keep your mouth shut, I'll shoot you right down there with them." So she got scared. She took off. She was surprised to see what was going on there. I mean, because she couldn't understand to see so many dead people, all over.
And
Why don't you tell us how old you were?
I was 17 years old, and my brother was 15, and my father was 45.
Where were you born?
I was born in Romania, but Romania got taken away. Hitler gave half of Romania back to the Hungarians because that was Austria. It was once Austria-Hungary, and so I fell in the part with the Hungarians because the Romanians didn't deport the Jews, and the Hungarians deported the Jews. So we was just about 3 miles from the border, and my father wanted to run away. We had a cow and a wagon, 2 cows in a wagon we were going to go, but my mother was pregnant. She said she don't want to go, run away like that.
Well, if it wasn't for your father and the other soldiers
Yeah.
there,
And
then
your
Hymie
father
wouldn't
was
be
a
with us.
black hat, right?
What?
Your father was Orthodox, right? Was Pious?
Oh yeah, sure. Well,
And black hat,
my
black coat?
mother was very religious, oh, terrible religious.
And part of that generation or whatever, the bottom line is my dad doesn't think he did anything heroic.
So he didn't talk much about it?
Yeah.
Growing up, he never talked about it.
We just saw something on television the other night, so the guy who from Czechoslovakia liberated a lot of, took them into England, and they wanted to send them to the United States, and the president of the United States, what was his name, Roosevelt, didn't want to get him in, otherwise he could have saved more people maybe.
Yeah.
After my kids were born, like that, it started to open up. And when his Danny is one of his oldest grandchild, but when my kids, Michelle and Sam and Casey, Ryan and Leah, then he started telling stories. And actually there was one interesting story that he told. I told Ira the story. Sam was having a little bit of my oldest son had a little bit of a hissy fit with my dad one day, and my dad was sending him upstairs, and Sam turned at my dad and spit at him, and my dad, I'm saying, Sam, get upstairs, and my dad said, and now my dad, you had to know, was, if you look at these pictures, he didn't have a mean a bone in his body. And my dad turns to Sam and says, the last person that ever spit at me didn't see the light of day the next day. And I almost fainted. I turned to my dad, I said, you gotta fill me in on that one later, And as it turns out, I sat down with him, I said, Dad, what was that all about? And he said, I never told you this story. He said, but we were taking in prisoners and our own men during after a battle, and they were brought into the MASH unit, and that my commanding officer asked me to hook up an IV onto one of the German officers. And he said, and as I was hooking up the IV on the German officer, he saw my dog tag and looked at him and said, Juden, and spit on me. And he said, and I turned around and I went and I helped one of our guys. He said, and I later found out that the officer died. He didn't, it wasn't that he killed him, but it's true, he never saw the light of day after spitting on my dad. But, and I had a whole different view of my dad after that, it just, again, it's still, if you look at every picture, he doesn't have a mean soul, a bone in his body.
Tony, where was he born?
Ironically, in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, that's right, told me.
That's right. They came over, his family came over. His father was a merchant and went down to Nashville. And his father and his mom were from the same town outside of Warsaw, Nevedwar, which was totally annihilated during the war. And he had heard that Molly, his wife, was in Nashville, and he went down. He came in through New York, and then went down to meet Molly, and they got married down there. And they had my dad and his brother were born there, But then she was homesick for her relatives. She had relatives in New York as well, and they moved back up to New York.
Probably there was
So
family
that's how they ended up
still,
in Queens.
That's how they ended
In-
up
in
in,
Poland,
well, in
there's-
Manhattan. They were in Manhattan.
there was probably family in Poland from
Yes.
your
That
grandparents.
they were annihilated, absolutely, yeah. We had
You
other,
know names, you know,
I don't. But we have other Gilberts though that are in Nashville, Tennessee. One another judge, as it turns out. So there was something in the genes.
Did your father like country music?
He loves country music. He was a Hank Williams fan, and Chris Christopherson, and Johnny Cash. Absolutely.
Even when he came north, he still
That's right.
kept that.
That's right.
So I think, I mean, sometimes you talk about the disease and you say that, you know, the special qualities.
Mhm.
I think right here is a living testimony of his character and what he has done in his life, and may that be a marriage for his soul.
Yes.
Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. This is a gift.
This is, how often do you have that somebody can
That's right.
say firsthand what your father did?
That's right.
You might have met his father.
You may have met him. Yeah, you may have met
They
him.
may have. And just a little addendum, Vic Grossman here, I just learned tonight, or we had talked about it, but we didn't know all the details. I don't believe he was in Dachau, but his dad was a doctor, a medic, who also served at Anzio.
They may be
So
together.
They may have been, I'm sure
came across each
there weren't many Jews in the unit, so they probably did come
Started
up.
in North Africa, and
That's
the
right.
Italian coast.
Same history.
Grossman and a Gilbert.
Yeah.
Probably in alphabetical order. And
That's right. That's right.
They went for the G's.
Wow. His soul be
This
elevated.
is a gift. This is truly a gift to
Say
learn.
together.
Yeah.
May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. May only know of simchas and happy occasions in the family. Nachas.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.